This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
The author of Hurting Like Hell, Living with Gusto, Victoria Stopp, on this edition of Conversations. Victoria Stopp is a writer and journalist by trade. Her work has been published in magazines, newspapers, and online. In her book, Hurting Like Hell, Living with Gusto, My Battle with Chronic Pain, Stopp's skill and experience as a writer allows her to take readers on a special journey into a problem that is very real for her and many others. We welcome Victoria Stopp to Conversations. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me how you got to where you are now. I want to talk about what's inside the book and all, but what happened to you that has caused you to have chronic pain?
Originally, I was hurt working as an emergency medical technician, and I did something that you're not supposed to do ever. I take blame for that. I had a good reason. I was working on a patient in the back of an ambulance. It was a non-emergency call, meaning you don't run lights and sirens. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize that even if the ambulance doesn't have lights and sirens on, that sometimes there is a patient in the back. It's just considered a non-emergency transport. And so I was working on the back, in the back on a patient, and I was working with a partner I didn't usually work with, so we didn't have the best communication going, and we were stopped at a red light for a really long time, and my patient started screaming in pain, and he really needed to be turned a little bit, and I wasn't supposed to stand up. I was supposed to stay seated and buckled in, but having another person screaming in pain 2 feet from me, I really just couldn't stay seated. And so I stood up, I moved him a little, and before I sat back down, the driver hit the gas, the light turned green, and I went flying through the back of the ambulance. And so that started what felt like just a normal whiplash injury, but it really wasn't. It was pretty bad, and so here we are roughly a decade later, and there's a book about it.
Wow. And kind of take me through what happened after that. I mean, did you start going to doctors and trying to figure out how to solve the problem after this injury? And what was the sequence of events?
Almost immediately, I had to do the workers' comp thing. So that pretty much the first thing they do is drug test you, which obviously I was clean, and then take x-rays, which is kind of a standard answer for any injury, and send me home with 2 bottles of pills that were pain pills and muscle relaxers, and just, you'll get better in a week. Mm-hmm. No real advice, no real in-depth, mostly just kind of a reprimand for having broken policy by standing in the ambulance, and that was true. So then I told my soccer team, I told a bunch of different people, well, I'll just see you guys in a week. Like, I didn't think twice about it. Mm-hmm. I thought if I got a massage and took a couple of those pills, I'd be good, but I wasn't. Mm-hmm. And that just started everything, seeking out help, looking for different practitioners who could make a difference, and not having a whole lot of luck.
Were you diagnosed with a particular, whiplash or something torn or broken or anything like that?
Eventually, it took a while and several doctors, but eventually I had an MRI, which probably should have happened immediately. Mm-hmm. And the bottom 3 cervical discs in my spine were herniated. So they were all herniated to the left, and that was from, I think, probably because I was holding on to a pole in there when I was thrown. And that just set in motion pain management appointments and things of that nature. And then later, I was diagnosed with something called cervical dystonia, which is essentially when the muscles in your neck won't stop spasming. Mm. And muscles are supposed to spasm primarily to protect something, to let you know, hey, you're hurt, don't overdo it. And instead, mine just kept going and kept going and kept going for years. And I went through Botox in my neck, which is, people think of it cosmetically, but mm-hmm. it paralyzes muscles. So mm-hmm. what doctors can do is locate certain parts of each muscle and paralyze it temporarily. It really didn't help. I've had every treatment you can imagine. And somewhere in there, I got several other diagnoses, but for years, what was most devastating was the neck stuff. Mm. And now it's moving again through other treatments that I've sought out.
When you say it's moving again, you mean moving to other parts of your body?
No, my neck is actually moving.
I'm sorry.
So I'm looking at you instead of having to look at you this way.
Oh, okay.
Because for years, if, for instance, I went to cross the street, I had to stand like a tin soldier and turn my whole body to look. Mm. And it's been through acupuncture, chiropractic, massage, lots of nutritional work, different things that people consider alternative treatments have actually been helpful, whereas the stuff that's our conventional way of treating painful patients really hasn't done anything for me.
Talk to me about some of those non-traditional ways of treating pain. You and I had talked about that off camera in the past, and what did you do?
I've done, I hate to say everything, because there's always something else out there. But I have tried acupuncture, massage, chiropractic. I've gone to an urologist, which is something a lot of people hadn't heard of, and I was very skeptical myself. It's a practitioner who looks in your eyeballs and does this analysis. And I was like, this is bogus, I'm sure, but it's $50 and I'm desperate. And it was actually really accurate. And he gave nutritional recommendations and different things, and it was very helpful. I've found a doctor. A lot of these things, of course, cost a fortune.
Sure.
So pretty much anything that insurance covers isn't helpful to me. But I found a doctor who does not take insurance, and he really helps me with different supplements. And that's been a tremendous help to have, you know, a handful of supplements twice a day, but they actually work. Lots of anti-inflammatory stuff, and really keeping a clean diet. I don't think that's stressed in our Western medicine enough, is how much dietary choices can control a lot of these things, and obviously not cure, but can help stuff get better.
How is that?
You know, the science behind it is probably debatable, complicated, and above my head. But I know how I feel if, let's say, I go out and eat a big piece of pizza versus how I feel if I eat something more akin to the paleo diet. And I feel achier. I feel like sugar, wheat, a lot of processed foods make me feel tired, make things hurt worse, and they feel like they raise inflammation for me. I know that's what this doctor has told me too, is that poor diet choices can raise your inflammation in your body, and I've experienced that feeling, so I believe that.
Let's go back for a moment. You were talking about the urologist. How does that go a little bit more in detail of how that works?
I don't really know how it works, but I can tell you it was so cool. He stared into my eyes, asked me a bunch of questions, did this whole profile, and was able to tell me things like when you go for your appointment, you don't say, for instance, my neck hurts, that's why I'm here. He doesn't want to know. It's almost like a fortune teller sort of thing, except I don't know, I've never been to one of those, but I think it's more accurate probably than a fortune teller. And he was able to say things like, you're sleeping 2 hours a night, you have a lot of pain. He just knew this stuff, and then he offered things like one of his initial things that he said was stop eating sugar. And how exactly they know that is beyond me, but I know there are a couple in the local area, and I'm sure there's a ton of them nationally that people can go to. And like I said, that particular thing was $50, so you're not out a mint if you think it's not worth it, but I found it helpful.
I'm curious, what was it that made you say, traditional ways of doing things are not working for me, I'm going to try something different? What was the triggering mechanism that made you do that?
Years of not getting better, still being young and otherwise healthy, trying what seemed like everything, injections, pills, all these different things, horrible side effects with pills, horrible side effects with injections, not being able to go to work a lot of days, just watching my life evaporate and realizing I cannot and do not want to live this way, and I have to seek out something to help myself. Also, there was one really bad incident. I had, I guess, two triggering mechanisms, like you said. One was after a series of injections on my neck that I got very sick from, and my neck still hurt. So that was just like, it kind of made itself pointless and added new problems. And then it just kind of added up, I guess, just getting advice from people who were doing better. I've done a ton of research, talked to different people, but I took some heavy meds and almost burned my house down from the side effects because I was so clueless. And that day was really a day of reckoning, you know, realizing and this part's in the book where I'm looking at my neighbor's house trying to figure out where the smoke is coming from. And I realized it's coming out of my own house because I left a pot on the stove on high. And I had no recollection of doing that, 15 minutes ago or something. And that day was very much like, these drugs aren't working for me. I still can't turn my head. I still don't feel well. I can't do anything I want to do. And now I've almost burned my house down from the drugs.
What were people around you saying? Was anybody saying to you, hey, something's not right here, you're different than you used to be?
Well, absolutely. As far as my whole life, I was an active athlete. I played sports in college. I was always active. And so, of course, that side of my life dropped off, which was a huge social thing, too, because the way I grew up socializing and the way I became an adult socializing, you made friends with your soccer team. You made friends with your softball team. You know, you met people at the gym. So as those things started getting smaller, and a lot of doctors told me to stop exercising or to stop exercising hard, and I would follow their advice and then not get better and actually get worse. A lot of my friends started saying like, oh, we never see you anymore. You know, things of that nature. People would tell me on some of the pills, like, you seem so out of it. Well, I was. So definitely people noticed.
Are you exercising now?
Yes. There really, fits and spurts throughout all of this. I have listened to various doctors or other practitioners say, don't exercise, and it's never worked for me. I have to do so within a lot of parameters that are not ideal. I'd still like to be playing soccer on a rec league. I'd love that. I would never do that now, but I would love to. I don't run road races anymore. I run on my own. And when I just try not to make my health problem someone else's problem. So for instance, if I sign up for a race and I'm supposed to meet friends there and I don't feel well that morning, I don't want to have to call and cancel. So I'll run, but maybe it'll be 11 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday instead of 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, because that gives me time to do, you know, all the rolling, the stretching, tons of foam roller work, whatever it takes, even a hot tub before I run, to even get the engine running. You know?
Right. Do you find doing the exercise, running, etc., does it help you feel better?
Definitely. There's a huge emotional and mental component to just getting outdoors. I think for me, going hiking, going running, anything that's out in the fresh air, I just feel better. I feel better interacting with our planet, essentially. And physically, I think almost everything is helped by being stronger. So if, you know, at different times when I haven't exercised and I've noticeably gotten weaker and felt weaker, that doesn't feel good. I think protecting the body with muscle is a really important thing. And I know for me, being stronger, that helps. For instance, if I fall down, well, I have muscle on me to protect myself. I'm not Hulk, you know, but it's more so than just falling and not being able to catch yourself or something.
Right. No, I know one of the things, and I was talking to you about this before we went on camera, you did some blogging for, was it Fibromyalgia Athletes? .com. So now have you also been diagnosed with fibromyalgia?
Yes. Okay. I was somewhere in the middle of all of this. I would say maybe the 6-year mark. I had a lot of symptoms that weren't making sense. And I think sometimes when people present with symptoms that don't make sense, I would have full body hives, like just a lot of random stuff in addition to injuries that were shown on MRIs. And a rheumatologist finally said, you have fibromyalgia. And I really was skeptical of that. I didn't know a whole lot about it except that it was something that wasn't really diagnosed with a test. And I was very skeptical about it. And that led to a lot of different medications that I ended up taking myself off of. And I was on one of those when I almost burned the house down. I still have mixed feelings about that diagnosis. Sometimes I think it's a catch-all for things that are unknown, but then other times it seems like it explains things perfectly. So it's just part of life. But I started that blog probably 6 years ago, I guess, in part to get some frustrations out. I was also having a lot of back problems at that point, and I was tired of going home and complaining about things, and I figured I'll just, you know, everybody complains on the internet. Sure, I was like, well, I'll start this blog to just complain about how bad I feel, and that's not really what it turned into, but that was how it started. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm getting like messages from random people who understand this, all these other athletes who can relate and who maybe even question the diagnosis, but they don't know what else it could be. And it just kind of formed a community. And that blog led Runner's World magazine to interview me, and they put it on their homepage for a couple of days. And that was when I really saw the audience grow in terms of a lot of athletes, especially female athletes, relating to chronic pain that is unsolved. and them being very frustrated and just kind of building a community of people trying to figure things out together.
As you talk to doctors and practitioners, and it's funny you say that because I've heard that before about oftentimes women having challenges along those lines with just pain that sometimes is not easily identifiable. What do they say causes that? I mean, any idea what causes that, or why women more likely than men, or even if that's the case, I don't know. But
you know, I have no idea. I think there is a huge side of the human body we don't understand. And going back to what I said earlier, I'm a big believer in diet and exercising affecting the body, the quality of life, and triggering or controlling disease processes. How that happens more often in women, I have no idea. But I definitely, the vast majority of people who I've met through the internet who either read that Runner's World interview or read the blog, I would say just offhand, at least 90% are female.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, tell me how the book came about.
The blog had been going for several years, and then the Runner's World interview happened. And when the Runner's World interview happened, I was like, okay, there's a bigger audience for this than I realized. And that planted the seed, but I was also still working day jobs and doing other things. And at some point during a semester when I agreed to teach 11-hour days, I wasn't actually teaching all 11 hours, but I had to be on campus for 11 hours a day. Didn't get home till about 9:30 at night. And I got an essay published in an anthology about baseball. It was a great anthology. It was a lot of fun. And that editor called me during my lunch break at teaching to ask me some questions about the essay and just to go over things. And then she just kind of randomly said, "Are you working on any books?" And all these memories of the blog, the Runner's World interview, they were right there in the forefront of my mind because it all happened fairly rapidly and recently. Mm-hmm. And I said yes, because I knew that I could feel an opportunity. Right. And living in a small-ish town in the South, when you have that type of opportunity, at least for me, it would be crazy to say no. Right. And that's how we got started. And within probably 3 weeks, the book was under contract.
Wow. What's the main message of this book?
I hope the message I intend for people to get is to take control of their choices. I do think a lot of times when you have a medical crisis, mm-hmm. it's so easy to get caught up in going to the doctor and the doctor said this, I have to do this. This one told me that, I have to do that. Oh, I can't do this until I go to the next appointment. And it just becomes your whole life and your whole cycle. And I think a lot of times it takes all the power out of a person because all their decisions seem bound by what someone has told them. And I'm not at all saying don't listen to a doctor. I think that's kind of crazy. But on the other hand, it's still your decision to make. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you go home with your symptoms. You go home with your pain. You go home with your happiness or unhappiness. And there's no practitioner who can change that for you. There's no practitioner who can say, well, I'm going to live your life for you, and here's how you should do so. All they're going to say is, this is what you should do. This is my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I really try to get across that whatever you think is best for you, that is your decision to make. And it only matters so much what health professionals tell you because it's still your life. And if you do get relief from all those pills, if you do get relief from doing what they say, then that's fantastic. But I do still think that there is a wide open world out there where you have the ability to live your own life with input from others, but not necessarily on the script that they write for you. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to point out, because we have talked about this before as well, you are not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting not going to doctors or participating in modern medical technologies. You're just simply saying that some of the alternative strategies have worked for you, right?
Definitely. I still go to medical doctors. I try not to very often, but I had the flu over Christmas and definitely went to a medical doctor. Mm-hmm. I have some good friends who are medical doctors. I think they're wonderful people. I think they usually do their best for us, but I do think that everybody's best is still limited. And sometimes, especially with these ailments, like let's say fibromyalgia, that isn't that well understood, and the answers aren't that clear cut, and maybe it's not curable either, that's where your power lies, is to say, well, these pills did this for me, but giving up gluten and giving up sugar did a whole lot more for me.
Interesting. You know, I think many doctors today are starting to embrace more of what you're talking about as far as nutritional approaches to solving many, many problems. I interviewed a group of doctors here recently, and they were kind of joking about how so many people in our society have reached a point where they just want a pill to solve everything, and even they're saying, no, that's not the answer.
I think so. I've been in that cycle, and then it becomes, it's almost comical, except it's eating your life away, where here, take this pill, and then here's a pill to counteract the side effects of those pills, and then here's another one, and then you're kind of on your own until your next appointment. And some of these specialists, not necessarily their fault, but some of these specialists, it may take months to go see them again.
Right.
And so you may have all these serious questions to ask, and eventually, the receptionist is going to tell you, well, if you're that bad off, go to the ER.
Right.
It's like, no, I want to come ask this doctor about the pills that he gave me. But I'm glad to hear that there seems to be more focus. Like I said, the doctor I met who does not take insurance, he's been wonderful. He's very holistic focused. He is an MD, but he's good at mixing modern medicine with kind of age-old wisdom, I guess. And, I think at one point he had to give me a steroid shot because my muscles were spasming so bad. But he much prefers to give me a bottle of really good fish oil to take to actually do something about the problem rather than just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Interesting. It's also interesting that you bring up these other ways of dealing with pain and hopefully the relief of that pain, given what we're seeing now with the whole opioid crisis. Have you received any feedback from people as far as that's concerned?
Definitely. And one of the underlying issues for me with our entire conversation in this nation about the opioid crisis, I feel that we're not addressing why a lot of people often get on those pills. We are so obsessed with getting them off and saying, oh, we've got to get so-and-so's addicted, we have to get him off these pills. Well, if this person has a bad back, had bad knee surgery, had a terrible injury at work, whatever the reason is, a lot of times that reason just gets lost in the talk about let's get him off these pills. Well, let's say it's your dad, your uncle, whatever, if he has a terrible back pain that leads him to take these pills, when you get him off them, then what? What are you going to do for him? And I feel like that's a part that is ignored, and that's where I hope some of these, what we still consider alternative treatments, start rising to the surface, and maybe insurance will start paying for them more rather than them being something that only people with money can access. I really hope that things like chiropractic and physical therapy and acupuncture, massage, all of that starts to be covered by insurance more, so that your first line of defense isn't a bottle of opioids. And, having taken them myself, when you're really miserable, it's kind of nice to be knocked out. But when you come out of that fog, you still have terrible pain. And I can totally see how those addictions happen, but I still think part of it is to understand why so many people do get addicted and what we can do for that pain so that they never even are prescribed those pills.
I think you bring up a very valid point, and I think a point that probably deserves a lot of discussion, and probably will as we move forward and continue to talk about this whole crisis. I think it's interesting that you weren't just somebody that had the accident happen to cause pain, but you were a professional writer before, and so what do you think you were able to bring to the book by being a professional writer and then unfortunately experiencing what you have personally with the pain issues? What's the different approach than, say, if somebody would just have told their story to someone?
Well, part of nonfiction writing for me, I was a journalist before I was in healthcare, and part of nonfiction writing for me is really making it true. I don't like the type of nonfiction that's kind of conveniently embellished, because that's not nonfiction anymore. And so having had that journalistic experience, having somewhat of a hard line about the definition of nonfiction, I just approach everything in life with documentation. And so even before I was hurt, I was writing all the time, even if it was just personal journals. I was just writing how the day was and what happened all the time. And so when I was ready to write a book, I had tons of handwritten notes and notebooks full of documentation. I had a lot of photographs of different things that had made impressions on me. I just kind of documented my life like not like it was special, but just like it was maybe one day some part of it would mean something.
Sure.
And I'm sure that was from being an old newspaper reporter and just taking note of everything. And then, for instance, when I wrote the book, a few times in there, I mentioned different paces that I was running per mile. And I still have that GPS data on file from my watch so that if anyone's ever like, well, you weren't going that fast, I'll be like, look, I have a Garmin that shows you I was. And so I think that's probably one, if not unique, maybe different aspect of telling my story was I really didn't have to rely on memory. I was able to fall back on things that had been documented.
I understand. Do you think you'll write another book?
Definitely. I have another book written that was actually my master's thesis from years ago, and I'm messing around with that some, but haven't really put enough effort into that. And I'm also in the midst of writing a novel right now, and that's more exciting to me because it is a little arduous to write nonfiction when you're that detailed.
Right.
And I kind of like the idea of making something up for a while.
Yeah. Well, you've had a pretty intense period of time here, having gone through what you've gone through health-wise, and also, writing the book. I know a lot of authors tell me writing a book is not an easy thing.
No, I don't think it's easy, but I'll tell you, it's the best job I've ever had in my life. I have worked very hard at different jobs, whether that was working till midnight at the newspaper to make sure that, it was press night and we had to get it out, small staff. Whether that was working as an emergency medical technician and working a 24-hour shift. I have had what I felt were much harder jobs. Whether they actually were harder jobs to someone else, I don't know. But for me, doing something, this sounds kind of depressing. I don't mean it that way. But, getting into a car that's just been crashed and trying to help someone who's dead in there was a hard job.
Sure.
Writing a book for me, that was almost like a gift. It's been wonderful. And it's not easy, but it's not what I feel is hard.
Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the very best.
You're welcome, and thank you.
The book is available at
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and you can go directly to the publisher's website. It's McFarland & Company.
All right. Hurting Like Hell, Living with Gusto, My Battle with Chronic Pain. Victoria Stopp is the author. By the way, you can follow her at victoriastopp.com. More of our conversations are online at wsre.org/conversations, also on YouTube and Facebook. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Take wonderful care of yourself. We'll see you soon.
Support for this program is provided in part by Gulf Power, a Southern company, and by viewers like you. Thank you.